Yes, guys, we're here, and today, guys, as you can see by the title, we're gonna talk about how do you pronounce it? Pundits. Is
Punditry. Yeah, right.
punditry is if that's the word. So we're gonna talk about all the football pundits on all different networks, from BBC to Sky Sports to BT. Is that all we really have there? Yeah, and that's all.
We
We didn't get
there's
into like Bean Sports and like the rest of them. Those are the main three that we look at. Is there any ITV ones? Yeah, you got a few ITV ones in there too, but we're just gonna talk about them. We're just gonna rank them. I think it's something that, for me, we don't understand how big of a part that these guys play in our love of football. They play such a big part because the way sometimes they feel and the way they impact on certain things that happen is the way you feel. They can sway you either way, and I have a certain feeling towards certain pundits. There's certain pundits that I'm a big fan of, and then there's other pundits I'm like, how in the hell did he get a job or she
right.
got a job? But yeah, we're just gonna get into it. This isn't gonna be a thing that it's meant to be bad. We're not judging them on their playing career because the majority of
No.
these guys have been pros. We're just basing it on what they do on the pundit side of it and how their
Yeah, and
football's opinions are.
what I'll say as well, James, is this is a subjective list. It's a bit of fun. There are going to be some people who I have pretty high up the list who I don't rate their footballing opinion, but I like watching them on TV. And I think you made all the right noises there in your intro. James, these guys have the biggest impact on the debates that happen in the office the next day. The single-handedly. Because if somebody's watching the sport who doesn't really understand what's going on, blah, 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 it's very, very easy to regurgitate an opinion that somebody else has had and then explains it, because then all you do is remember it in your brain and just blurt it out, and you say all the things that they say, and you sound smart and you sound good. It's why I think you and I hope that we do a good enough job of doing this. I think our opinions are our own, right? I watch a lot of football matches on mute because I don't want to let anybody else influence my opinion on the football match that I am watching. I don't want to just go with the consensus. And, some of these guys I like listening to, some of them, as seen by the fourth category there, mute the TV. Unfortunately, that does happen from time to time.
So we could talk more about this, but let's get into this list right now. Jack had the first one there. His face is already there. Let's look at Micah Richards. Now, I was hoping that he would be like coming in the middle a little bit, but he's up first. Jack, how do you feel about? No, 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 no.
Okay.
How do you feel about Micah Richards?
I really like Micah Richards. I think he's fun. I think he's a fantastic icebreaker across the board. I mean, his relationship with Roy Keane is absolutely fantastic. I don't think he really, puffs his chest out and gives his own, kind of unadulterated view all the time. But I think as a bit of a comic relief, and then also just his general vibe as a pundit, he's enjoyable to watch. He has good, rapport and patter with other people. So to me, I'm looking at the good category here, James. I don't know if you want to weigh
My
in.
biggest thing
I
is
like
that
Micah Richards.
my biggest thing for me, and the thing that I'm going to hold up to the most, is, to me, your analysis of the game. Because I'm the type of person, yeah, I love a good laugh and all that sort of stuff, but your analysis of the game is huge to me. And there's only one person I'll let get away with the analysis part about it, and I think that's what lets Micah Richards down. I would like to put him in the good category because I feel like his personality is actually great. I like
Yeah,
it.
he
It's cool,
is.
but I think in terms of analyzing the game of football, I don't think he does it that well.
It's
So if you're
weak. I
happy to put
agree.
him in good, it's not something that I'll be going mad about. So if you want to put him good, I'm happy to stick him in good too.
How about this, mate? We'll see how the rest of the list goes. I think he's either going to be the bottom of good or the top of bang average. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. So
Yeah,
we'll stick him in good for now. If this will even let me do it. Here we go.
So
Right, James. Everybody's been waiting. They didn't have to wait very long for this one. Roy Keane. So I kind of gave my opinion there first. I'm going to let you go first this time. Talk to me about Roy Keane.
I to me, it's that I mentioned the word analysis, and I said there's one person I'll let get away with that, and that's Roy Keane. Roy Keane is, to me, sometimes the reason why I put on the TV. It's when you talk about football, this guy isn't like, he talks like us guys, but from a standpoint that he's been there. Yeah,
Right.
everything he says isn't something like tongue in cheek. He knows what he's talking about there, and he talks with a lot of passion. the way like he isn't a man to like break down a play or something like that. He's just straight up. He got to win the tackle. Maguire, you know. Jack has a great Roy Keane impression. You guys really need to hear. Jack,
yeah, I was gonna say you can't put me on the spot like that.
if I'm being truthfully honest, Jack, I love Roy Keane. I love him on TV. Is just TV gold to me. The amount of times he just says how it is, and he's one that it's just he feels believable. I'm putting him in the best section. He's just elite to me.
James, he might be number one. I mean, there are some guys up here who I'm sure that could rival him for that. But you know, you talk about the tactical analysis there. I think guys at home watching this, you need to know this as well. Football matches are sometimes won in moments and are sometimes won with intangibles and with leadership. And some matches change on a tackle, change on a pass, right? When Roy Keane talks and everybody thinks, oh, who's this old curmudgeon from back in the day? If you shared a dressing room with Roy Keane may not be your Xavi Hernandez, you know, clever little Andrea Pirlo type player. But Roy Keane, what he made up for, with his lack of, let's say, ability, he was a nice football player. What he made up for in his lack of play was he was the strongest mentally the sport arguably has ever seen. And that comes across in his punditry. When he's talking about players working hard and doing all this stuff, he's not just saying that and not acting on it like he has done in his career. He, contrary to Micah Richards, he puffs his chest out and he really means what he says when he says that. So even if the technical and tactical analysis isn't there, there's so much to what he brings. And James, like you said, this is the funniest man on television.
And Jack, we mentioned how hard he is on players. The way he's hard on players, I think it's the same way he's hard on himself. You know, right. Like I listened to him when he was talking about when Man United won the 99 treble and how he missed the final. He was like, I didn't earn the medal. And in my head, I was like, what? Your performance, in the semi-finals, arguably the greatest midfield performance we've ever seen. Like this sort of, like he is so hard on himself, and I can understand like the way he's hard on football players, because sometimes to him it's very, very simple. Run, win that ball, have that tackle strong on it, you know, sure. Simple as. But again, we've been dwelling on Roy Keane. I love him. Listen, Pundits, I love him.
He's box office. He's brilliant, and it's great that we had Micah into Roy Keane. But next up, more BBC. I want to say more BBC heavy on this one here. Yes. But we do have Alan Shearer, the all-time Premier League top goal scorer. James, you started the last one. I'll start with this one. I like Alan Shearer, but I don't know what Alan Shearer's perspective is and how that relates to the modern football player. There's a lot of things where there's just a slight disconnect, in my opinion, with some of his analysis and his ability. Now, goal scoring, all this kind of stuff being in controversy, you know, Alan Shearer has proven what kind of a player that he is, right? He did it through longevity, of course. But I always feel like there's a teensy bit of a disconnect between Alan Shearer, his generation, and the modern player. I think the likes of a Roy Keane and some of the guys we'll get to here, there is a kind of a social media connection. They're down with the kids a little bit. Alan Shearer feels a little old fashioned to me. I'm going to put Alan Shearer in bang average personally. I really like him as a player, as a person. I think he comes across really well. But in punditry, I'm not excited to watch Alan Shearer talk about football.
It's interesting because, like, in a short bit of time, I feel like he has on Match of the Day, for instance. I feel like he does a good job to, let's say, analyze or look at certain parts of, let's say, a striker or like a midfielder. His breakdown is actually decent, and I do like his personality. Again, I think with Alan Shearer is that I probably don't see him as much as the rest of the guys. Think about it, you know, Saturdays, if you're on Sky and BT, it's on a Wednesday, it's on a Saturday. There's so many games going on nowadays, so you see these guys, and I don't see enough of Alan Shearer, if I'm being truthfully honest.
James,
I'm a fan of him, Jack.
Just quickly though as well, BT and Sky, the highlights are on YouTube. So we're not waiting like we were when we were kids to watch Match of the Day on a Saturday. We're whipping out our smartphone and we're watching YouTube, and we're watching, you know, Martin Tyler and these great commentators actually go through the game. So we don't get as much of those kind of guys, Alan Hansons, Mark Lawrensons, etc.
In my eyes, I don't believe that Micah Richards is better than Alan Shearer as a pundit.
Let's do this.
Okay,
happy with that?
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Right,
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, there we go. I think we were going to get.
You know, I don't think. Let me be nice. I feel like Micah Richards' personality is so good. Let's put him in good. His personality is so, you know. But yeah, good.
James, Alex Scott. Now, this is somebody female, right? That's tricky. This is, this is a subjective, but James, I don't mind sticking my neck out there. This is an attractive female presenter. Unfortunately, the internet exists, so people don't treat her very nicely all the time. She, I think, attempted to do some kind of presenting and some hosting at the Olympics, which I'll be honest, in my view, did not go very, very well. But in terms of the punditry side of things, I'll let you go first. I was just trying to introduce there. Sorry, I started talking, but I'll let you go on Alex Scott there.
I feel like she's come into the game and she's been a breath of fresh air, if I'm being truthfully honest. You mentioned being a female, all that sort of stuff. Now, I want to see what you actually know about the game. And the first thing people point out is, oh, she's a woman. I'm not sure she knows much. Jack, I feel like she's one of the best. I'm not even going to lie. I feel like she's brilliant. Personally, I will pop her in. I want to say in the best section, but I feel like she needs to do kind of more to get. I don't think she's earned her stripes fully yet for me to fully commit to saying she's outstanding. But from what I've seen so far of Alex Scott, I would definitely put her in the good section. I feel I'm really impressed with her understanding of the game, especially.
Oh, and James, she doesn't hide away from like a controversial opinion or being able to like talk somebody off a ledge if they're, having kind of the wrong or misinformed opinion. She is fantastic at sticking to her guns, explaining herself fantastically well. And the only reason I bring up all that stuff about, her sex, her gender and all this kind of stuff is just, it is harder, guys. When Joe Cole comes and starts doing punditry, no one's going, oh, Joe Cole's so fit. Oh, what does he know about football because he's a man? Like that, he does not face those obstacles. Alex Scott has come in and faced those obstacles absolutely brilliantly, and she put some of her male counterparts to shame. So whenever she's on, I'm certainly putting her. I'd sooner watch Alex Scott as a pundit than I would Alan Shearer or Micah Richards.
Jack, we've been so nice so far. I thought we were going to get into these people.
James, so nice. We got a couple.
It's coming.
It's coming up. Yeah,
it's coming.
Jamie Carragher. I'll kind of take it away here. Look, I like Jamie Carragher. I do think that Jamie Carragher is good. He sometimes gets on my nerves a little bit. I find him a little bit like, I don't know if his social cues are sometimes off a little bit. He can sometimes come across as a bit abrasive and a bit rude, like cutting people off midway through them talking. Obviously,
so true.
And also James, Rich coming from me on this channel. I think that especially his relationship with Gary Neville, he has to go in best. But I think that of the two of them, there's one carrying that ship a little more than the other. I don't know if you agree.
But I felt like first when he came in, I was wondering how is it going to work? I feel like exactly, but I feel like his transition has been fantastic. At times, like, you sort of forget Jamie Carragher, the player, because I feel like his punditry is becoming very, like, I wouldn't say iconic, but it's becoming huge, Right. Personally, Jack, I'm a big fan of his analysis overall. I like what he does. A lot of the time, I'm not even going to lie, I've taken a little bit from him when it comes to, let's say, looking at certain points that we bring up for box to box. I would sometimes just dibble on what Jamie Carragher has to say, because in my opinion, he has some good points. Again, can be a little bit Liverpool biased at times, a little bit, but I'm a fan, so I would definitely put him in best.
I'm saying best. I'm saying though that if you made me, if I was choosing which pundits I wanted, I still take Roy Keane over Jamie Carragher. I think I'm just putting that out there. I don't know if you agree.
I love Roy Keane. I can't even lie. I could just sit there and watch 10 minutes.
He kills me. Anyway, so moving swiftly on, Chris Sutton. James, I'll let you start on this one. I'll bite my tongue for a few seconds.
I'm not even gonna bother, Jack. I'm just gonna mute the TV if I'm being truthfully honest. I just don't like watching him. I don't like listening to his Rangers, Celtics. I just don't want to hear it, man. I get it. You play for Blackburn Rovers. You won a Golden Boot. Yeah, I don't know. I just not a fan of hearing. He comes off really arrogant at times.
Arrogant, yes, he totally does. And also, the thing I hate most, I hate this banter with Robbie Savage on BT, where actually you can tell they actually don't like each other. This isn't a fun, I'm going to take the mick out of you and then you're going to rip the what out of me, and oh man, you cheeky, blah. Like, no, they say stuff that's like rude, and then the cast around them acts like awkward kind of thing. Like, it's not fun to be a part of. It's awkward and horrible to watch. His analysis isn't good. And again, it's the arrogance. He kind of has come in, and I think he thinks he's this kind of poster child of BT. And it's like, mate, you're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. So for me, you said mute the TV. James, he really gets under my skin. I really hate watching him. I want to stick him in worst. I don't know how strongly...
Jack, listen, I'll let you take away. If you say worst, say worst. It's either one of them. You know,
that's my least favorite pundit. Like, he's out of the way now, so I'm pretty, I'm pretty happy with I'm pretty happy with kind of getting him out of the way. That's for sure. James, first 6 out of the way. Next up, Emma Hayes, who I think to a certain extent came out of like nowhere, largely speaking, because we've seen, lioness players or like prominent female players come in and do some punditry here and there, right? But we haven't really seen anybody who's been successful in the coaching world as a female come in and do some punditry. And James, I've got to be honest with you, I really like watching Emma Hayes and what she has to do. She really knows her stuff. You can tell she's a really good leader. And again, she's proven that she has had success. So I'm not going to say best, but I mean, anywhere, in and around where Micah Richards is sitting, I'll take that.
Jack, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, her understanding of the game is as good as the men there. She trumps, I think, a good 60% of the of the guys when it just comes to the understanding of football. And like, you can 100%. Tell by her being a coach. Like, Alex Scott is good at it, but she's on a different level compared to like Alex Scott. Like, Alex Scott, if I'm being truthfully honest, personally, Jack, like, just like you, she goes in a good section easily. Do I prefer listening to her over Alex Scott? I think when it comes to football opinions, I would say yes, if I'm being truthfully honest.
Really? Okay,
yes,
that's interesting. Because I would say Alex Scott purely because I think Alex Scott has the cojones to say something that's unpopular, but she can then go and back it up. I think Emma Hayes is a little bit more meticulous, a little bit more of a kind of a clear breakdown, whereas I think Alex Scott can wear her heart on her sleeve a little bit more. But again, I'm happy to take your lead on that one. I am a big fan of hers as well. Right, James, I'll let you take it away on this next one. Thierry Henry.
I mean,
we know what he's like as a player.
He is one of the greatest football players I've ever seen. My favorite football player of all time. Him and R9, my idol growing up. As a pundit, I feel like he's fantastic. He is one of the pundits that gives a good breakdown, and you can tell, like, all these pundits are great, but they don't not many of them understand the highest level. Right. They've never been to that pinnacle, and Henry's been to that pinnacle, and his understanding of, let's say, how the best do certain things and what they want to and like what they want to do in certain moments is fantastic. I feel there was one incident between him, Micah Richards, and Jamie Carragher where they were explaining how Kylian Mbappe was able to score the goal against Real Madrid, and they had a ball like in between them, and then they were talking about it, and Henry was just giving a fantastic breakdown on what Mbappe was thinking and like what he was seeing at that actual point. I love listening to Thierry overall. I gotta put him in the best. Personally, I'm putting him over Jamie Carragher just because he's my idol too. So he's my childhood hero.
I know I'm not gonna win this one, but James, I'd put him in bang average as a pundit.
Oh, Jack.
I think he's a bit dry, James. I don't
really
like.
Jack, have you ever seen him on
like his punditry
on the American?
On CBS and stuff.
Yeah, Jack, he's great.
I think he's a really average pundit. I think for the player that he is, he's quite boring and quite dry to watch. I'm obviously going to put him in best. I'm not, Jack, I'm not taking.
Jack, how many times has Thierry has been trending for amazing memes and things like that?
Oh well,
blimey!
Touching Carragher's
memes. Blimey, when he's come on, Jack. Come on.
I know. I think a lot of the time he's a bit more diplomatic with his criticism, and I think he's a bit more conservative with his viewpoints, which to me
Jack, he lost his job at Arsenal because he was talking a bit out of turn against the club, remember?
Yeah, no, hey, that's fine. I'm just saying, in my personal view, the 4 people below him there, I would sooner the 5 people below him there, I would sooner listen to, not Chris Sutton. But anyway, I'm not taking your idol off that spot. That's your guy.
I don't like that word idol. My hero, my childhood. My
Um,
childhood hero.
moving swiftly on, one Arsenal legend to another, Righty, Ian Wright. Um, James, I made a bit of a criticism about Alan Shearer earlier. Also, James, are we putting Alan Shearer in bang average? The more I'm looking at him there, I'm kind of thinking like, what do you think?
I'll let you know. Since you let me have Thierry, I'll let you have.
Yeah,
You
I'll
can
just
do what
pop
you
him
want.
down. I don't know. I don't know. So, this is kind of to my point with Ian Wright. Ian Wright gets it, right? He understands. He understands what is going through the mentality of a player. So when a Jake Humphrey or when a presenter or when somebody raises a point about a player's mentality, what they might be thinking about, why they might be thinking, I think Ian Wright is very emotionally sophisticated and a very, very emotionally mature, which is actually a really, really nice compliment. So yeah, there you go, Ian Wright. I have a nice compliment for you. But what I think that means, what and how that translates is, if they're unhappy, if players are unhappy with something, or players are super happy about something, he can give some really good player insight into how that's going to affect the player going forward. So to me, again, I think he'd either be at the top of bang average or kind of the bottom of good. I'm seeing him nestling just above Micah Richards.
I think he has to go past Michael Richards. But the one thing I don't like about Ian Wright is that you can tell by his relationship with Arsenal, he
Yeah,
holds back on his real opinion when things are going bad, and
right.
that to me kind of like the, just deducts points for me in a way.
Yes.
But the one person, like, you just put him on a screen, he fills up the screen with his personality, and I don't think
He's
anybody has that ability there. You know, anybody
he's such a great, yeah.
exactly, he could just smile and just something just comes between the screen. As I said, we all know Ian Wright. He's a lovely man, and I'm a big fan of him. So yeah, I'm happy to put him in good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you say, and it's that charisma and that character that just bleeds through onto the screen there. And I think similar to Micah in many ways, in terms of just being that super likable guy. But I think Ian Wright, there's just that he gets inside the players' heads a lot better than a lot of these other pundits. James, moving on to Jamie Redknapp. What are your thoughts on Jamie Redknapp? Little bit of an OG in the recent kind of era of Sky Sports. He's been around the block for a long
That
time now.
that's what I was gonna say. I feel like his punditry career is surpassed his playing career overall.
Sure.
Like from the point of view, like Jack, he's been on like Sky since 2006 or 2005 or something like that.
Right.
Look how young he looks. Like, it's crazy how long he's been there. Then yeah. Let me stop talking about a man's looks right now. But listen, we're not scared to go.
It's okay.
You
This is
know.
a safe space.
But I don't know what I feel about Jamie Redknapp, if I'm being truthfully honest, because he comes off at times just like on a league of your own. His personality is great, but when he's
Right.
on Sky, this personality and his understanding of the game doesn't hit me as much as like it should do. You know, I've never
It
looked at
comes.
Jamie.
He comes across to me like a little bit of that, and I'm not trying to say that Jamie Redknapp's not worked hard for his playing career, but it comes across like he's the son of a guy who knows people and is big in the game. Like the silver spoon thing, that kind of starts to creep in when you hear him. My one thing I really like about Jamie Redknapp, if he gets challenged on a point, he won't back down. And that makes for really, really good television. Really good television. If he disagrees with somebody, he will go toe to toe with that person. He will argue with them, and it makes for very entertaining football. I'm going to put him in bang average, James. I don't know if you agree with that, but to me, Jamie Redknapp just kind of a bang average pundit at this point.
Again, he's been there for so long, and he probably should be at best because of how long he's been there for. But I don't think he's ever held the mantle for Sky like that. Yeah,
Right.
I'll put him just like you, bang average. Doesn't move the needle like either way for me, if I'm being truthfully honest.
Right, getting into a little bit more of a BT heavy session here now, James.
We're coming for them.
Jermaine Jenas. Now, I'll kind of kick us off on this one. I like Jermaine Jenas. I think he's a way better pundit than he is a player. And I respect the fact that he can have his own view. He's not shy about sharing his opinion and his view. But James, I never agree with him, ever. Nearly everything he says, I respect the fact he can say it even though it's not popular. I respect the fact that he, to a certain extent, can back it up. But I find myself disagreeing with him nearly all the time whenever he's talking about football. So to me, be one of these people I'd put under mute the TV. Again, I respect the honesty. I respect not just saying what everyone else is going to say, but I disagree with him so often that's kind of mute the TV level for me.
I'm opposite from the point of view. I think he was a better football player than Pundit because
Okay.
Jermaine Jenas could play, Jack. He could play.
Yeah.
He scored some amazing goals for Tottenham and Newcastle. The biggest thing for me that gets me with Jermaine Jenas is his Tottenham bias just shows too much for my liking, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Too much. Remember when Tottenham lost 4-2 to Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-final, and he was like, Tottenham were the better team. I don't know how they lost, and I think it was Alan Shearer said that they lost. They lost. You don't have to play well in a semi-final to win. And the way he was just so Tottenham biased. It does put me off him. And just like you, when he comes onto the screen, I think he has some decent points. You know, like from point of view, him being a midfielder and understanding some dynamics of being like a midfielder is great. Right. But overall, Jack, when he comes on the screen, I'm like mute.
No more of him. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Look, and I think that, again, not to disrespect the guy, I think he's still relatively new to it, let's say. I don't know if he's going to get any better or if there's any more that he can do to improve in that role. But yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. Moving on to Joe Cole. Now, this is, I think, based on all the little characters we've got here, I think Joe Cole might be the newest addition to this kind of little crew here. I guess for me to, you to start on this one. Joe Cole, James, take it away.
I don't care for Joe Cole on TV. I'm not gonna lie. Again, another one, and this just might be a BT thing, but the bias just puts me off listening to him. Again, his West Ham bias at times, his Chelsea bias. At times I just can't stand to hear a one-sided argument. You know, right. Especially with football with two different teams playing. I'm not a fan of it. And he's quite new, and I don't know. He was on the BT team for the West Ham Europa League run. I can understand he's West Ham through and through, but at times it just felt really unbearable to watch.
Right.
And personally, I'll just put him on mute if I'm being truthfully honest, Jack.
There's something quite charming about Joe Cole, and I think it's because he's this kind of cheeky chappy Londoner who's quite down to earth, and he's played with some legends. I love it when you get these guys who have played with like bona fide legends that are still super down to earth, and they can talk about these amazing players they've played with, but they can still do it and probably have a beer with you down the pub, kind of that kind of vibe. His punditry leaves a lot to be desired, but I do think he is likable, and I do think that it's something that he will get better at. So I'm happy to kind of put him ahead of Jermaine Jenas for now. I think, though, that if we did this in a year, James, we might be sticking him in bang average, or maybe even the bottom of good. Who knows?
Maybe. To be fair, I don't think you're right. His personality is actually good. It's just the bias just kills me at times.
I know you need to be objective, and I know it's hard for a lot of these guys, but that's the way it goes. James, I am such a big fan of the overlap. I'm such a big fan of this guy and everything that he has brought to not just Sky, but to football in general. I like his ability to, he's not afraid of calling out politicians. He's not afraid of calling out hierarchy in football. This is a guy he can make mistakes and then kind of come back from them. Valencia, I'm sure he would admit to that massively. Gary Neville. I love Roy Keane, but this is the GOAT, right? This is the best pundit we've ever seen.
I feel like the biggest thing for me is that when Gary Neville first came into Sky, he had big shoes of filling in Andy Gray's boots. And Andy Gray, to me, as a kid growing up, he was everything. Listening to him, oh yeah, beauty, and just his punditry overall was just great. And I remember when Gary Neville first came in, there was a thing like, ooh, I wasn't really sure. Now, Gary Neville, to me, has grown to a point right now where he's in danger of having his punditry career being bigger than his football career. And we're not talking about like a football player who just played for a lower league team here. We're talking about a guy who's captain Manchester United, who's won 7 Premier League titles, Premier League, captain England, Premier League titles, lift the Champions League, played in Champions League finals. Like, this is a guy who had a glittering career. And the best thing for me with Gary Neville is that he doesn't act like it. I think he totally forgets of what he achieved as a football player. But what he's doing in Sky, to me, it's got to a point right now where it's completely overlapping a great career he's had. And to me, when I'm talking about pundits overall, he might be one of the greatest pundits I've ever seen. Like, he is outstanding.
He's brilliant. Now again, I think he can sometimes say stuff without thinking and get carried away. And then another pundit can go, well, hang on a minute, Gary, and he can be actually proven wrong. And then he kind of retracts it, but it makes for an interesting conversation. But James, look, I agree with you. And this is not going to be the last we've heard of Gary Neville. This could be the head of the Football Association in the future. I'm really not ruling that out at all. He's got Salford City. He's got a hotel football. Gary Neville has a lot of irons in the fire. There's potential. I think there's been rumours about a burgeoning political career as well. James, I can't say enough great things about Gary Neville and what he's done for football. And like you said, like with Joe Cole, like I mentioned earlier, still so down to earth. The guy has played with legends, but could meet and chat with anybody. Nice guy.
A lot of Gary Neville love right there. I was like, we might have to just bring up Valencia again, and it's just his coaching career. Might as well just bring that
down
up.
A peg.
You feel me, Jack?
Yeah, I do. Also, especially with his time at England as well, that didn't go brilliantly either as a coach. Sorry, that's a tough one to follow. James, your thoughts on Owen Hargreaves at BT as a pundit?
Jack, I like him. I don't know. I like Owen Hargreaves as a pundit. Now, the biggest thing for me as a player, Jack, people forget how great of a football player he was in that first season in Manchester United, winning the double, and how big of a part he played in that. He was massive. I remember the free kick against Arsenal that broke my heart. But as a pundit, I feel he's a guy that's very honest, and I could tell that his experience as a football player scars him a little bit, but he uses that to help others and also explain how others will feel at like certain points. Because you can tell, Jack, that as a football player, he has been through a lot of low points, and at times he comes off vulnerable, but vulnerable in a good way. And like, I feel a lot of people can relate to him. So again, with Owen Hargreaves, I will put him in the good section, Jack.
I'm looking just between those two ladies there, just between Emma Hayes and Alex Scott. What are your thoughts on that?
I will put him behind them, if I'm being honest.
Behind them? Okay, because look, James, I agree with you. This is a culture.
Actually, no, please actually put them in. Yeah, put them in the middle. Yeah, go on. Put him in the middle.
James, he's a savant. He gets it. Right, this is a guy. He had his time at Bayern Munich, had his time at Manchester United, had his time at England. He really knows his stuff, and when he says stuff, people should really listen. Now, he doesn't, I think, have the charisma of an Ian Wright, a Micah Richards, Joe Cole, Roy Keane, Gary Neville, etc., Thierry Henry, but the knowledge is so there. And I think that's what you have to give credit for. And James, especially when we're talking about Champions League football, if I'm seeing Owen Hargreaves as a pundit, I'm pretty happy, Right. Michael Owen, quite possibly one of the most memed and hated pundits out there because he just says the most obvious stuff. I'm going to say one thing to defend him, right? One thing. When Michael Owen starts talking about finishing, my ears prick up. And I do listen, because this is a Ballon d'Or winning striker
machine at a
who's
time.
Played for Real Madrid, England, Newcastle, Manchester United. This is a Premier League winner. This guy has been the best player in the world at one point, according to an individual award, right? So let's not forget that. When he starts talking about finishing, I listen. In the same way that when Thierry Henry starts talking about finishing, I listen, right? That's his one saving grace. Everything else in football, commentary, defending, anything of that nature, goalkeepers, tactics, I'm muting the TV, James. I don't want to put him in worst. I feel bad to put him in worst.
Jack, we might have to just slip between both because I think he needs to be in both. You might have to create two pictures for Michael Owen so we can put him in both.
I kind of want Chris Sutton to be in worst all by himself, but I think let's be fair. We'll put him at the top of worst, shall we?
Okay. Do you know what? I would take him over Chris Sutton any day. So,
100%, 100%. That's not even close. But yeah, I mean, James, any other comments on Michael Owen?
Just miserable. He just sounds miserable, Jack. It's just my days. But yeah, let's move on. Now, as I said, Jack, just miserable. Move on.
James, I'm not gonna lie. Talking about people who sound miserable, we got Paul Scholes up next. Thoughts on Paul Scholes as a pundit?
Yes, the miserable thing does get me, but Paul Scholes, when he gets it right, Jack, he gets it right. Now, I will
Oh,
always
right.
refer back to the time when he said like he was worried about this Manchester United team during like their win, their comeback win. I'm not sure what team it was in the Champions League, and he said that he was worried about them going into the Liverpool game. That if they play like this, they'll be beaten 4-5-6-0. And they, and truthfully honest, he was right. And he mentioned how it wouldn't be even close. They're gonna get dismantled, and he was bang on. And the thing about him is that he isn't scared, to be honest. He is so like he will
Nothing to
ruffle
lose.
feathers. He would
Yeah.
he would say things about friends because he just wants to be honest and real on the TV, which
Right.
I absolutely mess with. His personality is a bit drip drab,
Bit
but
dry, yeah.
I do like his honesty. You know, when it comes to the game. And Jack, when he like talk about understanding, he understands. You know, he like when we talk about midfielders and players, probably him and Thierry Henry, and maybe you put Rio in there,
Yeah.
and obviously Roy too, as in you could mention as the greatest in their positions ever.
Right.
And
Right.
and as a midfielder, when midfielders talk about Paul Scholes, we know what they say about him. He gets it,
James,
he understands it.
you just brought up my point there. This is your favorite central midfielder's favorite central midfielder, right? That's the way it goes. I think the public perception and the professional perception is actually quite far apart. I think the public respect him as a good to great player, but I think people who've played with him or played against him, they know the true talent of Paul Scholes. I wish he's talked a bit more. I wish he was a bit more proactive in his comments. But James, I tend to agree with you. I'm feeling like this is either the top of bang average or in and around where Micah Richards and Wright are.
I don't think he's better than Alan Shearer, if I'm being truthfully honest.
So what do you reckon? Better than Redknapp or a little worse?
Put him in the middle. Yeah, I'll personally take him over Redknapp.
Peter Crouch. Now here's the thing. Peter Crouch in this country universally loved by nearly everybody. The guy can make fun of himself, right? He's smart, he's quick-witted, he's a good lad, right? He's a good lad. He's difficult to dislike, the guy. My issue though with him in terms of punditry, I think his brain is always switched on to the PR machine, right? Public relations. How am I being perceived? How am I doing? Because I'm going to be hosting a TV show with Maya Jama, or I'm going to be doing a podcast, or I'm going to be doing this, or I'm going to be on La Liga Their Own, or I'm going to be doing an advert for Paddy Power, or I'm going to, you know what I mean? He's very diplomatic in what he says, and I think he's always conscious of how what he says is being perceived and received by the public. So for me, that really places him as bang average. As much as I like the guy, there's not enough of him putting himself out there and giving his true thoughts, in my opinion. What do you think? What do you make of Peter Crouch, James?
I don't really care for Peter Crouch when it comes to putting like again. Do I think he's like horrible to listen to? No. Do I think he's as bad as like Michael Owen from a bias or a Joe Cole from a bias standpoint? I don't think so. But he's never one that ever came to me and be like, oh, I care. Or he's just there to me. He's just really tall.
Yeah. Right. So James, next up, and this one I was really, really excited to potentially talk to you about, because I know when we were floating the idea around here, that, you know, this was one where I think we kind of had a little bit of a split decision. So I'd love to know your thoughts on Rio Ferdinand as a pundit.
Again, Jack, I'm a huge fan of Rio Ferdinand overall. Like BT as a whole, like the whole broadcasting network and their pundits, I'm not the biggest fan of them. But Rio Ferdinand overall, to me, is the best one there. And also the biggest thing for me is that the way he analyzes the game. I feel like when like they get the big pad out, he is the one right there breaking down and like explaining why certain things happen, especially from a defensive point of view. He's absolutely great. And thing about Rio is that he isn't scared to defend a defender when he doesn't see, because usually when a goal's conceded, people go, oh, he got that wrong. Rio would say that, listen, I don't think he could have done anything else there. I felt like he done his absolute best in that certain situation, explaining that he was like he wasn't really in that wrong there. I think he's great. The one thing that gets me for Rio sometimes, he does live in the past a little bit when he talks about, oh, guys, my time in Manchester United, oh, I'm still the best. Like I don't get it twisted. I love it to a certain point, but he does like to make it sometimes about me.
Listen,
you know?
listen.
listen, me and Vidic. But overall, Jack, personally, I would put him in the good to best section.
I think he's quite average. I do like him, and I think he comes across really, really well. And James, I mentioned a couple of guys here who are kind of dinosaurs who don't really connect with the modern football player. Rio Ferdinand connects with the modern football player. He gets it. He understands. If there's any other criticisms or comments from maybe a name that's coming up pretty soon here about the modern player and the frustrations, right? I think Rio Ferdinand will be the first to defend them and understand it, because he kind of lived across those eras a little bit with his with the end of his playing career. Similar to Gary Neville, I feel like sometimes something comes out of his mouth which maybe he doesn't mean or he doesn't explain particularly well, which he then kind of has to walk back, and the other pundits have to try and not correct him on, but just try and maybe move it into an area where he can try and make his point. I think he for me, again, this isn't my list, it's the box to box list, so we're going to have to come up with a compromise here. I would put him at the top of bang average, but to me, if you're saying good to best, I mean, where do you want to put him in good, James? Where do you think?
He's miles better than Micah Richards. So it's rather we put Micah Richards in bang average, but personally, I'll be happy to put him just because I would put him at best, because I actually like watching him, and like also his YouTube channel, I think Vibe with Five's great. To make it fair, we can put him in the bottom of best if you're happy to do.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll be honest, I'd rather hear
No. I mean the bottom of good to make you because you were gonna.
Oh no, mate. Well, like, what do you think? What about him and Wrighty? What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, put him there. Yeah. Personally, I would put him in the best section.
If BT's on, I'd rather see Owen Hargreaves than Rio Ferdinand. That's just me personally. But Alex Scott, I think, is great. So, but again, like I say, we've found a compromise there. Right, James. Next up, Robbie Savage. Now, I find Robbie Savage a really difficult one to talk about, because I think you talk about character, right? Robbie Savage is a real character, right? He kind of reminds me of, you obviously remember Jimmy Bullard, right? Kind of reminds me of, like, you know, he's got that cheeky chappy thing going on with Robbie Savage. Played with some great players, has got some great stories, some great connections. Another guy who I think gets what the modern player is and what they're going through. But James, he's on the wrong channel. He's on the wrong network. I think if Robbie Savage was on Sky, we'd see this guy flourish into a great, you know, entertaining pundit who you know, has been there and done that and might be able to give some good points. I don't think he's afraid of coming across one way or another, but he's stuck on BT arguing with Chris Sutton. So for that reason, I'm going to stick him in bang average. I would have him probably between Crouch and Jamie Redknapp. But James, this is one guy where, you know, if we could do a trade, if maybe Sky Sports could get rid of somebody and bring somebody in, I'd love to see Robbie Savage on Sky Sports.
I don't mind Robbie Savage, but his association with Chris Sutton just brings him down to me, if I'm being truthful. And the BT have this weird thing of trying to make this a cringy bromance between him, where they're going back and forth. I don't really care for it. Yeah, just stick him in bang.
Top of worst? Top of mute the TV?
No, I wouldn't mute the TV for him. Okay. If I'm being truthfully honest, because if we're gonna put, I think he's better. You still feel like he's better than Crouch. I think the Crouch.
Well, it really bugs me that Crouchy is. I feel like he's so focused on his public perception that he doesn't really give of himself. That really bothers me. That really irks me. I like people to be true to themselves and give their honest view, even if it's wrong, because then it starts an interesting conversation. I don't think Crouchy's there to ruffle any feathers. And, you know, Roy Keane, Gary Neville, you know, Carragher, I want people to ruffle some feathers if they want to, you know. James, Graeme Souness, I'll let you take it away here first, because this is I'm sure quite a divisive pick.
Do you know what it is? Is that the first thing you expect me to say? Oh, he's a dinosaur. He's this. He's that. You need a bit of diversity when you're talking football. You need people that get it from a different point of view. And Graeme Souness overall, Jack, I don't mind him. You know, I do feel like when he doesn't like somebody, it comes off really bad. And we know his relationship or his opinions about Paul Pogba have been noted, have been noted for many years now. But as an overall pundit, Jack, I like him. He comes off to me as the older version of a Roy Keane, where it's just simple as, guys, get on the football pitch, get your head down, work hard. You know, like, again, his criticisms of like certain things I don't agree with, But a football opinion overall, Jack, I don't think it's bad.
I hate him. I hate him. I really hate him. To me, this is one better than Chris Sutton. I would sooner listen to Michael Owen than I would Graeme Souness. I can't stand him. It's so boring. Roy Keane, there's a little bit of method to the madness when he's making his criticisms and he's trying to make his point. Graeme Souness really does come across like just kind of a wish he could relive the old days kind of old man. I really don't see anything interesting that he comes to say. I'm never surprised with an interesting point that he makes, and a lot of the time I'm just there rolling my eyes, and it sucks the life out of you watching him. That's just me. I'm really down on Graeme Souness. James, I'll be honest with you. When I was looking for pictures of Chris Sutton and Graeme Souness, have you seen the way I've got them both smiling and laughing?
Do you know what, Jack?
But I'm happy to compromise.
Graeme Souness he isn't one I'm ever going to fight for, because deep down I don't care as much. I feel like his football opinions to me doesn't irk me to that point where I'm like, I just want to turn the TV off. I don't mind what he has to say, because I do feel at times he has some good points, overall. But if you want to put him in mute, Jack, I don't mind. I'll let you have it.
Mate, I was going to put him in worst. I was going to put him just ahead of Chris Sutton in worst. But listen, I think my problem is, James, it's also the boredom factor. I get bored. I think I could pause the TV, tell you what Graeme Souness is going to say and press play, and I think I'm basically going to get it right. And that's not what I want to, that's not what I want from a pundit. But yeah, let's split the different. What would you, if this was your list, where would you be? Best, good, okay. You'd put him in bang average. Let's stick him in mute with TV, but I'm sticking him in the bottom.
Jack, last one. If I'm being truthfully honest, Jack, I think he's one of the worst.
He should be one of the best.
He should be. But Steve, he comes off at this, especially when he talks about Real Madrid, it comes off really, 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 really bitter. And he's just another of the BT pundits are so biased, and that Liverpool bias. Listen, Liverpool's run to the Champions League, goodness gracious me, it irked me so much, because him, Michael Owen, they were like, oh, no team deserved to be on the same pitch as Liverpool. Liverpool are just playing like, I'm like, guys, shut up. Seriously.
Right.
With him, I should like him, because his experiences as a football player is probably one of the best. Imagine going from Liverpool and then going to Madrid, playing at a time when Real Madrid were signing the greatest players in the world, all that sort of stuff.
England, central midfielder. There's so much stuff where you go, come on, dude. Give it to us. You're so experienced. You've played for these great clubs. You're an international. Similarly to Owen Hargreaves. To me, him and Owen Hargreaves are very, very similar in what they could give you. But Owen Hargreaves delivers, and I feel like, I don't know, Steve McManaman. To me, James, I feel like there's a little more upside to Jermaine Jenas going forward than there is Steve McManaman. I mean, what do you think?
Listen, I totally agree with you there. I'm gonna let you take this one. It's rather mute or worse.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I mean, well, Graeme Souness. I mean, I just want to drag that guy right down. But anyway,
but guys,
having a look at the list here, mate. Any changes you want to make? Any now that you're looking at it, we've got a lot of guys in good there. But I'll be honest, James. I think the general view of punditry in this country, I'm pretty content with it. As long as I'm not watching BT, I'm pretty happy with what I've got.
The only one I would want to switch is probably Micah Richards and Alan Shearer. Or put Alan Shearer in the good section, or just put Alex Shearer.
I don't mind doing that. Mind doing that. Let's do that. Let's swap those guys out. Right, mate. You wanna finish up here?
So, guys, listen. If you disagree or agree with this list, comment down below. Let us know. Also, the biggest thing you guys have to do before you leave this video is hit that subscribe button. Break it to the point that your
and the like button
turns, and the like button, and the comment button, whatever, all the buttons, all the main buttons. Yeah.
Maybe we should be proper YouTubers and start doing like targets. Guys, this video needs to get 50 likes, so smash that like button.
But guys, if you want to see more of this sort of content where we're just giving you some random football stuff, I was thinking of even ranking all the best trophies in my eyes. So if you guys want to see more of this tier list stuff, please comment down below. Let us know, guys. This is Box to Box Football, Jack and James, and we will see you next time.